Earl, Murphy Lopez, Van Landit, Seep,
Here.
McKee, Brewer,
Here.
Luck, Manning, Gotchel, Glassburner, Rudersdorf, Gentis, Turk,
Here.
Cosgrove, Frank, Severson,
Present.
Williamson, Hui,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Call, and McGuire. We have a quorum, 18 out of 21.
Thank you very much. Pastor Jan Starr is with us this evening and will lead us in the invocation.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you and praise you for your goodness and your mercy to our little community here and the surrounding communities so that we might have a livelihood. And Lord, we just pray for this meeting tonight. We pray for every individual and every family represented here. We pray that you will give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we look at the topics tonight, as we discuss them and vote on them. And we just ask your blessings upon this meeting. Amen.
We have before us a 22-point agenda. We will be scratching item number 13 from that agenda tonight, so we will not be discussing that. With that change, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by McGuire, second by McKee. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting were posted. Is there anyone who has any corrections or changes for the December 14th meeting minutes? Hearing none, we'll declare those minutes approved. Move on to item number 6 on the agenda, a report on petitions for zoning amendments received since the last county board session. We did receive an email from Mike Bindle saying that there are none. And as well with item number 7, report on rezoning petitions recommended for denial by Zoning and Land Information Committee. There are none either. So just like that, we're all the way down to item number 8. Resolution approving a contract for linen laundering services for Pine Valley.
This will be resolution number 22-1. Now therefore be it resolved that Pine Valley be granted approval to enter into a 3-year agreement with Aramark to provide linen laundering services to Pine Valley for an annual fee of $98,740. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. Your pleasure. Motion by Gentis, second by Manning. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I don't think anyone from Pine Valley is in attendance tonight, and I discussed this with Tom earlier today, and this is highly recommended by the Pine Valley Committee, and it all came about as a result of personnel shortages. However, the silver lining here is that we're going to save money in the long run. Even in the short run, we'll save money. And the Aramark Laundry Services has come highly recommended, and they had the low bid, and so we've moved it forward for our approval tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Van Nelson. I think we should look at more of these outsourcing things for county things. I think they save us a lot of money on more things.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion before we vote? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Item number 9, a resolution amending the county's FMLA policy.
This will be resolution number 22-2. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that these policy changes are hereby adopted. Item number 1, FMLA policy, changes recommended through the Finance and Personnel Committee related to the better definition of law. Be it further resolved that the amended policy is available at the Richland County Clerk and Administrator offices and will be available on the Richland County website. Be it further resolved that Richland County employees will be made aware of these changes through their department management. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication with policy impacts immediately in effect unless specified by another date. And this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption.
Motion by Supervisor Seep, second by Supervisor Rudersdorf. And discussion. Yes, go ahead, Steve.
I wonder if we could just get a brief description of what was done.
Mr. Langrick?
Yes, can you hear me? Here I am. So some of the changes included transitioning with the administrator and having an administrator incorporated into some of the languages. Other changes include some of the tweaks and recommendations on procedures involved with filing for FMLA to make sure that we're in compliant with different state laws. We don't have like a checklist or on it. There is a copy through the Finance and Personnel Committee where we do have the track changes indicated in the policy forms.
Any other questions? Right. If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries and the resolution is adopted. On to item number 10, a resolution approving an amendment to 2021 contract for the Department of Health and Human Services.
This will be resolution number 22-3. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the following amendment to the following 2021 contract with Children's Hospital of Wisconsin Community Services, Children's Service Society of Wisconsin of Milwaukee, with the original contract being for $49,500, was amended at $130,000, and now an additional amendment to $155,000 due to an increased need for treatment, foster care, and respite services to children being served by the Children and Services Unit. Be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend the above contracts by not more than 15%. Be it further resolved that Director of Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to sign the above contracts on behalf of the county in accordance with this resolution, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the County Board Supervisor members of the Health and Human Services Board.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Motion by Van Landite. We have a second. Second by McKee. And discussion on this. Is anybody online from HHS to speak to this?
I believe we have Director Thorson on.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm here.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, this is a contract that provides services for treatment, foster care, and group home care for children who've been placed. We amended the contract back in May when we anticipated additional placements. And as we got to the end of the year, it was clear that we were going to exceed that amount because of more placements in the second half of the year.
All right. Anyone have questions for Director Thorson? All right. All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The resolution carries and is adopted. Moving on to item number 11, a resolution amending the Health and Human Services and Highway Addendums to our handbook.
This will be resolution number 22-4. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that these policy changes are hereby adopted. For the Health and Human Services Addendum, the changes that were recommended through the Administrative Transition Committee related to the transition to an administrator form of government. to the highway addendum, changes recommended through the Administrative Transition Committee related to the transition to an administrative form of government. Be it further resolved that these amended policies are available at the Richland County Clerk and Administrator offices and will be available on the Richland County website. Be it further resolved that Richland County employees will also be made aware of these changes through their department management. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication with policy impacts immediately in effect unless specified by another date. And this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this resolution? Motion by Supervisor Luck. Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Call. Thank you. Mr. Langrick, any background you want to share on this?
Same types of changes again with the transition to the administrator. In most of the changes, it's substituting supervisory committee with administrator. As another talking point, as we build towards the next session, I would also kind of ask the county board at this time, if I can be so bold to say, when we're doing policy changes like this, to consider like the appropriateness of bringing it all the way forward to the county board. If some point, if we're comfortable with having a finance and personnel committee as an authority to change an FMLA policy, to change a handbook, as that's kind of where we're housing the discussion is a thing for you folks to consider. But again, we do have the notes and some of the discussion pieces in the minutes of finance and personnel.
Any questions for Administrator Langrick on this?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, we're all for shortcutting our procedures where and whenever we can.
And I would say at the same time, though, too, making sure, as I'm sure Supervisor Brewer would agree, of ensuring yet that we have transparency so that everybody is in the know on things. But yes, my experiences with other counties is like a handbook or an FMLA change. Sometimes those are delegated down to like a personnel committee or a finance and personnel committee, with some types of authorities still retained by the county board. If you're doing across the board wage schedule changes or something like that, then that still requires resolution. But I have seen it with other counties that delegate those types of authorities as a consideration point. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Not all in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. We're on to item number 12, a resolution approving the payment of 2 invoices for the Sheriff's Department.
This will be resolution number 22-5. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the following invoices for the Sheriff's Department are hereby approved. Number 1, from Baycom Inc. of Green Bay for an annual maintenance of the county's emergency radio system in the amount of $8,520. Item number 2, from General Communications Inc. of Madison for $10,918 for a 2022 maintenance contract for the Sheriff's Department radio system. Be it further resolved that the payment of these 2 invoices shall be made from the maintenance agreement line in the Sheriff Department's police radio account in the 2022 county budget. And be it further resolved that the county clerk is hereby directed to issue county checks in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that the resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this is being offered to you by the Law Enforcement Judiciary Committee.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. Do we have a motion? Motion from Supervisor Cosgrove and a second from Supervisor Luck. And discussion on this. Questions or Sheriff Porter, anything out of the ordinary we should know about these? Nothing? Okay. All right. We have no questions. All in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we'll pay those invoices. Thank you. We are skipping item number 13. That has been scratched from the agenda. So we're going to item number 14, which is a resolution approving payment of an invoice for the 4th year of the Sheriff's Department's TASER program.
This will be resolution number 22-6. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for payment of the invoice of Axon Enterprises, Inc. of Tucson, Arizona for $5,627, which is the 4th year of payment for the Sheriff's Department TASER program. Be it further resolved that the county clerk is hereby directed to issue a county check from the 2021 Sheriff's New Equipment line in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution is effective immediately upon its passage and publication and is being offered to you by the Law Enforcement and Judiciary Committee.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. Do we have a motion? Motion from Supervisor Severson, second by Rudersdorf. And discussion on this. Seemed pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions or anything?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Seat.
is this contract for training?
Sheriff Porter? He's coming to a microphone, Don, just a second.
Thank you. I didn't quite get the question.
The question was, is this for training or is this actually paying for the devices or?
This is paying for the devices.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. The motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We are at item number 15, a resolution adopting the structural document for the Richland Economic Development Board.
This will be resolution number 22-7. Now therefore be it resolved that the Richland County Board of Supervisors authorizes the board to adopt the structural document and replace the Economic Development Agreement and its amendments. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Richland Economic Development Board.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. Do we have a motion? Motion by Cosgrove. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, thank you. We'll give Mr. Brewer the second. Thank you. All right, we have the motion before us for discussion. We have someone here to speak with us tonight, correct?
I do believe so. I believe Mike Brenninger is here, wanted to make a couple comments as well as we had a proposed amendment recommendations as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we can get you a microphone, Mike. Get Mike a mic. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Mike Brenninger. I'm the chair of Richland Economic Development Board. Appreciate being able to speak with you, and hopefully you've seen some of the accomplishments of economic development over the last year and a half. New buildings and expansions going on, several funds coming in that have helped our county and city. So we're in it together, right? We're in it together. When the Economic Development Board was established about a year and a half ago, there was a document that was bantered around for a long time, and it got approved by the county board and the city council, but it left out several items. There were clarifications that needed to be done, and there was only 3 voting members on the board, even though it's a 9-member board. So we really wanted to clean that up and bring it back to the county board and the city council to pass something that was a little more functional. So that's what this is about. The structural document is about. Many of the items from the original document were left in place, but there were a few things that were changed. Primarily, it's the ability to vote for other members besides the 3. If you don't know who the 3 members are, it would be the county board chair, the mayor, and the representative from the civic sector, which is me. So there was only 3 of us that had a vote. Kind of difficult to have people that are, they're CEOs and plant managers are on the board. They have to sit there and not be able to vote. So that's primarily what it's about. There was a couple, and I talked to Sean Murphy Lopez, who has a couple recommendations for change, which 2 out of the 3 I don't have any issue with. I do want to address one of those, and that has to do with the potential new appointments to the board having to be approved through the county board and the city council. So that was not part of the original document. That's not the process we've used so far. That would be something new. I understand why the county and city might want to have an ability to approve the people that are on the board. However, it is a 3-sector board. It's not just the public sector of government. It also includes the business commerce sector. There's a number of people on the board from that, and there's people from the civic sector, such as myself. There's all three sectors in there. And the way we've done it so far with bringing new people on, we've had 3 new people come on. And I imagine all of you know that it's not always easy to find people who want to volunteer, be on committees and boards. We have been very fortunate. We have had at least 2, sometimes more than that, people that were interested in taking the position that was open on our boards. So we actually have gone through a process each time we had to fill a seat where we have a written interview, I guess you'd call it, a written interview with each member that's applying to be on the board. Then we have a verbal interview in front of the Richland Economic Development Board, the Red Board. Then we have a vote by the board. And finally, we seat the new person. So it's a 4-step process. If you add 2 more steps into it, in other words, approval by the county board and the city council, I do wonder if people will be discouraged from serving. I feel like we're already running them through the mill, going 4 steps to get on our board. We have been so fortunate to have good quality people that are willing to serve, great ideas, entrepreneurial things going on. I mean, it's really been wonderful, but that's the only opposition I have to what Mr. Murphy Lopez has proposed, and I don't even know if you got those proposals, but I just want to tell you the board is doing very well. You've probably had some reports from Jason Glassburn, the Economic Development Director, and it's the kind of the charge of the board to give him direction. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share that with you, but I also want to say this board is not quite the same as other committees that might be part of the county board, because it's in the public sector, it's both the city and the county. But in addition to that, it's also the business sector. And before it became the Richland Economic Development Board, we actually went out and fundraised from the private sector. They paid for most of economic development before this happened about a year and a half ago. And then the civic sector, and we did most of the work to make this happen after it was defunded. Economic development was defunded in 2009 by the city and then the county. So it's been started back up. It's going great. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Okay, other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Supervisor Murphy Lopez, go ahead.
so I did talk to Chair Brewer about
Could I ask, Mr. Chair, that he speak up? I can't hear him.
okay, is it going now?
Yeah.
There we
Great,
go.
thank you. So I did talk to Chair Brewer since he's our representative on the county board on the Richland Economic Development Board. And he asked if I would send the amendment before the meeting out. And so Mr. Langreck sent that to everyone. I think, I'm not sure what time it was, but it was this afternoon. But I will go ahead and read what I was suggesting. So, well, and first I want to say too, I want to thank the Economic Development Board and the Economic Development Director. They've made a lot of progress, and I'm very excited about what they're doing in the community. So I just want to preface it by saying that. And I was able to talk to Mr. Glassbrenner, Mr. Brenninger, and Mr. Langreck all about some concerns I had. So I've got 3 different pieces of this, and so I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, would it be okay if I just do them one at a time, just so that the conversation doesn't get confused about different topics?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So on page 2 of the agreement, if you go to the agreement, there's a letter A at the top of the page, and it's up on our screens as well, I believe. Oh, it might have. Oh, I see now. The proposed amendment is up there. But if you do go to the agreement where it says the county board chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agreement by inserting the words "or their designee" after the county board chair. And the reason I'm suggesting this is because this is what we do for Simon's natatorium board. The county board chair can designate their another person to serve on that board. And since that's another city county board, seemed like a good thing to give flexibility to the county board chair.
Okay, so that is a motion to amend. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Van Landijk. Discussion on the amendment.
It's page
Very
2,
practical.
A.
It's under letter F, the composition of the RED board. And letter A specifies the county board chair. The suggested amendment is to say the county board chair or their designee.
Very practical.
I've got it pulled up as well on the screen up here.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
Mic working?
No.
No. Okay.
Sounds like it is now. There we go.
I would just ask if anyone has checked if there's any interest from the mayor in having similar language for his entry. We might want to verify that before we vote on the language of the amendment, or pass it with the indication that that may also end up being amended.
I can,
Good, Mr.
I can
Lang.
speak to that, Mr. Vice. So I reached out to Mayor Coppernall today and to Director Glassbrenner and said if there were amendments happening tonight, rather than try to do an amend and adopt tonight, because the same resolution language is now with the city, that it would probably better serve us if we entertained amendments and then make recommendations to send it back to committee with those recommendations. Red board then can see what comes from city council tonight underneath the same type of a guidance, and then finalize it through red board and then bring forward a finalized agreement language back to this body. If that sounds like a plan of action.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Seep.
so the effect of the motion tonight is to make a recommendation to the red board with
We're
request.
making amendments to the motion before us, but it sounds like our destination with these amendments will be to postpone consideration till our next meeting and refer it back to the committee.
That would be in best interest for the sake that if we adopted something, an agreement tonight that has amendments to it, and the city were to adopt something else, it would put us in a little bit of a situation.
We would have mismatching agreements. so-
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Mr. Van Landijk, go ahead.
How do we go about doing that? Should I take back my second, get it off the floor, or how do we proceed?
Well, let me go back to Mr. Murphy Lopez. In view of that, Sean, would you want to cover the rest of your proposed changes, and then, you know, we could either withdraw your motion to amend for now and just refer this back to the committee, or how would you like to proceed?
Well, I guess my one concern about withdrawing my motion to amend would be that there might not be clear guidance from Red about what the county board wants.
Okay,
If we moved forward on the amendments, and then rather than taking a final vote to adopt a resolution, we could table it, I guess, at that
Okay.
point, and we would have it recorded then on what the body wanted to amend it to, if that sounds like a course.
all right. Everybody okay with that? All right, so we have an amendment before us to this resolution. Any further discussion on that first amendment that was proposed? If not, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we've made that first amendment to the resolution. Sean, you want to talk about your second one?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the amendment, or that the resolution and the amendment be postponed for final resolution.
Mr. Seat, before we do that, could we deal with the other two suggestions?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, Sean.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so I'm going to skip down to the third one, and because I think it's the second one that's going to have more discussion.
Mhm.
So the third one is on page 4 under letter A in the second sentence. This has to do with in the event that the economic development director's job performance isn't satisfactory to the Richland Economic Development Board, that they would recommend some sort of discipline or firing. I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly how it's worded. And that would be recommended to the county administrator and the county board. And what I'd like to make a motion to amend on this one is to strike the words county administrator and the county board and replace those words with city and county. And my thinking here is that because this is a joint city-county position, that it just shouldn't be the county basically administering discipline. This should go to the city and the county. And I believe this is also similar to how the Simons Natatorium Board looks at the Simon's director. According to Mr. Lang.
Okay. Do we have a motion for that amendment? Do we have a second? Second from Mr. McKee. Discussion on this.
I'm not clear about the effect of the motion.
The effect would be to replace in that sentence under item number 3, letter A, the Economic Development Director evaluation. Instead of having a recommendation from the RED board going to the county administrator and county board, it would go to the city and county according to this amendment.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Gentis.
I thought that the director was actually hired by the county as salary, and he was under our benefits and everything. Is that true?
That is correct. The language has him as a county employee in which then reimbursements come back from the city for salary. I believe supervisor, the same as though kind of true with Tracy out at the Simon Center. The difference though between those two positions and other department heads is they're not appointed by myself underneath state statute 59 because it's kind of a joint effort. So this again, it would allow the city then to also have a place in the process for moving forward on again, a recommendation to discipline or terminate versus having it going solely through the county.
So Tracy is a county employee also?
Yeah, she's underneath our payroll and benefits type of system and is considered a county employee.
It would be consistent.
Supervisor Luck, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, if there was disciplinary action, whose employee handbook would we be following, the cities or the counties, if you change this language?
Be tracking still with the county. If there's a possibility of making it more complicated in an employment law fashion because now you're moving through a county element and a city element, I don't know. I would say if we change this language, we would probably also want to have a defined process and a separate type of a procedure type of a document to know what that might look like to incorporate both folks. And that's something that could also be placed like in almost like a term of an employment letter to the employee or another type of a procedure type of a document, but it could make it more complicated, but at the same time, it's already kind of a complicated partnership to run a joint venture together.
Yeah, the
Mr.
intent
Chair.
is- Yes, go ahead.
In reality, the county would not take any action for the economic development director without working closely with the city and conversely. And I think that this is probably a good amendment here because it does clarify the issue. Where if you think back historically, what happened before, and if anyone wants elaboration on that, they can talk to me afterwards. But I think it has to be a joint city and county effort.
And to be clear, the way it's outlined in the document, it would start with the RED board making their recommendation. We're just saying it
Right.
would go to both the city and the county with this change.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Seep.
may I add a dimension? Would the term all personnel actions rather than the specific issue of discipline or other termination or other issues, there's a much broader plate of issues under the general term personnel actions. It seems to me that if we just talk about the specific issues of discipline and termination, that it's a little intimidating and a little negative. It seems to me that issues of promotion and advancement are also issues that are of concern to both bodies, and that if we use the term personnel actions, we would cover all those issues. Just a suggestion.
The next sentence of the agreement does say that the RED board may also recommend promotion or pay increases in the budget based on the performance of the EDD. So I'm assuming that is rolled in with what's concerned there.
Mr. Chair, may I add one more piece on this?
Yes, go ahead.
So in the paragraph before this one that we're currently looking at, the second sentence says, while Richland County will act as the employer of record, it is understood that EDD is a shared position. So I think the spirit of what's in that sentence, that's what I was hoping we could carry down to that other sentence. So it's really clear that it is a city and a county position. Perhaps under the third sentence of that paragraph right beforehand, where it says that the employment aspects of the position will be under the guidelines of Richland County, and then parentheses, it says wages, benefits, days off, health insurance. That kind of gets closer to that issue of the employee handbook, since all four of those some of those aspects are in our employee handbook. But my amendment does not address specifically how it would happen. It just makes sure that the city gets included so that they don't get left out of that conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Seep.
may I ask, when this joint group meets, is their meeting defined as a meeting of a government?
You're talking about the RED board?
Right.
Yes, it is a public body and it's subject to open meetings.
And okay, that's important.
Any other questions on this amendment or discussion? Yes, sir. Well, what we're doing tonight is making our amendments, and then we're going to refer it back to committee so that the city and county can approve the same document, hopefully at our next session. Other discussion?
This is being referred to the RED board.
That where its destination is?
That would be the intentions, is to
Yes,
take the actions of the body tonight back to committee to consider and finalize.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. We have approved the second amendment. Mr. Murphy Lopez, the third one?
Okay, thank you. So the third one is the middle one on the list of proposed amendments. And this one on page 3, this is under the section about that Mr. Brenninger was referring to earlier. This is the section about appointing new members of the Richland Economic Development Board. So on page 3, under Roman numeral 7, I'd like to make a motion to amend, inserting at the end of the last sentence, a comma, and then a phrase that says, subject to confirmation by the Richland Center City Council and Richland County Board. And with this one, I did email out everyone in the room and folks who are online, Mr. Brenninger, Mr. Glassbrenner, I got to Ms. Scott. So hopefully everyone who wants it got it. I did some research. Mr. Brenninger brought up the example of Greene County. So, this is not exhaustive research by any means, but with the time I had, I did take a look into the economic development organizations in 3 peer counties. And so there's a chart in your email. I'll try to describe it, especially if you're not able to look at this. It's comparing the organizations to Richland County. So in the second row, it's highlighted in green. This is Richland County. I think the way appointments happen to the Richland Economic Development Board, I think it's important to look at how are we alike and different from these other counties. So Richland County is unique from these other 3 counties in the organization type. So Grant, Greene, and Vernon counties are all either a nonprofit 401c3 or 401c4. And we don't have that status here. We are a joint board of the City of Richland Center and Richland County. The Economic Development Board, rather, is a joint board. The percent that each county gives in funding to economic development varies. We're at the highest end. 60% of our funding goes to economic development. Grant County has 38%, Greene County 20%, and Vernon County gives nothing to their economic development. County representation, all the ones that have counties that give money, Richland, Grant, and Greene, they have representation on the Economic Development Board. In Vernon County, they don't, since they don't get any public funding. And then finally, I think the thing that's most pertinent to the discussion here is the percent of public voting members on the ED board and the percent of private voting members on the ED board. So the proposal here tonight with this agreement is to have 2 out of 9 members be public. That'd be 22%, and 78% of them to be private. In Grant County, they have no private voting members. It's all 100% public representatives. So the county appoints 3 people. The 5 cities in Grant County, they appoint 6 people. The villages each get a rep and these are all ones that give dues, and then 1 township. In Greene County, it's more of a public-private partnership. So about 50% of them are public, 50% are private. But for the most part, the private ones are what they call corporate investors, and they give anywhere between $5,000 and $7,500 to be a voting member on their economic development corporation. So the amendment here is not to necessarily say that I think the Richland County Board should have 60% of the seated members of the Economic Development Board, but it's just to say I think we should be able to have a confirmation process, and so should the City Council, to make sure that the Economic Development Board represents our taxpayers in the county, because this is 100% taxpayer money. And I just want to make, the spirit of this is that the Economic Development Board be as diverse as our taxpayer base here in Richland County. So thank you for listening to that long explanation.
Okay, so that is a motion to amend. Is that correct, Mr. Murphy Lopez? Just a minute. Is that a motion to amend, sir? Yes, okay.
Thank you.
So do we have a second on that motion?
I will
From Mr.
second that
McKee.
motion.
Mr. McKee beat you to it, Don, sorry.
That's all right.
All right, now discussion. Linda, you said you had a question.
Well, I think the makeup of the board is a good idea.
Your microphone's not on, Linda.
Oh, it was on. No, you were. No?
There.
Yeah. Okay, I think the document that has the categories and who would be on the board, I think is actually perfect. You know, this mayor and the county chair or his designate, and also that the administrators from both would be on the board but not be voting members. I think it's good. But since we're paying, since this is a public thing, and we have people that we nominate that are not county board members to positions. I think since we pay 60 and the city pays 40, that I think this county board should nominate 4 members and the city council should nominate 3 members, and nominations would be open to whoever fits the categories designated by the board. And this process will apply to new members on a 4-year rotational term, or just someone who will fill a seat vacated prior to that termination. So I would just make it more specific than what the amendment is on the board right now. Floor.
Okay, well, we have an amendment before us, so let's keep focused on that.
Well, I need to say that there might be an alternative.
Mm-hmm. Point is taken, thank you. Other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I certainly appreciate Ms. Jenda's amendment, and I would support that. It really strengthens, I think, Mr. Lopez's amendment, and perhaps either Mr. Lopez would integrate her principles with his amendment, or move to withdraw and support her amendment, or else to do an amendment to the amendment.
Okay, as of right now, we have Mr. Murphy Lopez amendment on the floor for discussion. Was there a motion to further amend his proposal? Or was that just discussion, Ms. Gentis?
Well,
I guess it
Mr.
was discussion.
It was discussion, okay.
May I ask, would Mr. Murphy Lopez find that an amendment to his amendment would be consistent with his intent?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I do believe it would be consistent, but I do think the language would need to be stated in another motion to amend. And you'd have to vote separately on both of them. So I'm not sure exactly how to change it.
Okay.
But I'm definitely open to it. I would support it if she makes a motion to amend.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to amend that's currently before us, which is the one that Sean Murphy Lopez proposed? Yes,
Well,
Tim, go ahead. Just a minute, Marty. Tim's up
Okay.
first.
So the intent here would be, we'd be a confirmation body.
That's the intent of the amendment we have right now, yes.
Okay, I think that's important clarification, that this wouldn't be a selection committee necessarily, or we would, decide between a group of candidates based on background that we're probably not familiar with. It'd be more of a confirmation process similar to what we're doing in a lot of other committees today that have citizen members and members that fall outside of the county board.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Brewer, go ahead.
And I, of course, am all in favor of expanding the base of RED so it represents the community. However, RED meets every other month. So if RED approves a new member in, let's say, November, and then it gets perhaps board and council approval then in January. RED, I mean, you've lost a month there. You've lost a month without having an effective RED board member. I'm just logistically, because it's I'm not sure how to say that. It meets every other month, not monthly.
Okay. Further discussion?
Is there anything that prohibits RED from having a special meeting for the sake of considering this question?
Well, I don't think so. We had a special meeting in December of this year, so there's nothing to prevent that.
That would solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, is this the amendment to the amendment?
No, this is still the original amendment proposed by Sean Murphy Lopez.
Thank you.
All right, so what we're voting on is the amendment to change the wording to of the last sentence. It's confirmation by the Richland Center City Council and Richland County Board. And we're talking about RED board members. That's the amendment we're voting on. All those in favor, say aye. And those opposed?
No.
Yeah, I'm a no.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before you take the roll call vote, I was confused by the way you stated the amendment. I thought that the decision would be made, the confirmation would be made by the government body of each institution, of each municipality.
That was part of the discussion about us appointing people. That was not the amendment. The amendment was merely to add confirmation by the city council and the county board to the appointees that RED brings forward.
Mr. Chair, may I read the full sentence?
Yes, please,
As it
go ahead.
would
Let's
be
reread that.
If it were amended. So it would say, a member is elected to the board by simple majority, subject to confirmation by the Richland Center City Council and Richland County Board.
Okay, so that is the amended sentence.
So what was Mr. Brewer's objection?
Red meets every other month, not monthly.
It's to do with timing and process to get it approved. By adding the extra layers of approval, Marty, I'm assuming your concern is things could be delayed.
Things could be delayed, and I think it makes it unwieldy unnecessarily so.
Okay. All right, so we're voting roll call now on the amendment.
Carol,
Mr. Chair, may I request that the roll call rotate according to county board rules?
Okay,
so we're voting yes to amend or no to not amend, correct?
correct.
Okay, so Murphy Lopez,
Aye.
Van Landwit, Seep,
Aye.
McKee, Brewer,
No.
Luck,
Aye.
Manning, Gotchel, Glassburner, Rudersdorf, Gentis,
Aye.
Turk,
No.
Cosgrove, Frank, Severson, Williamson, Cooey,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Paul, McGuire. All right, and we have 10 noes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or I'm sorry, 10 yes and 7 no. Carol, sorry, Steve, I'm sorry. I went out of order, sorry. Aye, okay, so 11 yeses, 7 noes.
With the vote of 11 to 7, the amendment is adopted. Okay. Now, Ms. Gentis, do you want to propose a further amendment before we send this back to committee?
No, I don't think I do.
Okay. Otherwise, would there be someone willing to make a motion to postpone consideration of this to our next scheduled county board meeting and refer it back to committee? Motion by Cosgrove to postpone. Do we have a second? Second by Luck. All those in favor of postponing this to consideration at our next meeting, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we will bring this up again next month. Refer it back to the RED board in the meantime. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I had a question. You hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, before we move on to the next item, it's been stated that there's difficulty finding people to fill in on that particular board. And I'm wondering why so many hoops have to be jumped through to become a member of that board. And they gotta write something down, they've got to sit in front of people. If we've got competent people within this community that are part of various organizations and groups and businesses, why do we make them do this? I mean, it would be kind of a daunting task. And who is it that sits in judgment of them? I'm a retired teacher and I'm very aware of these kinds of things. And instead of making things more difficult, it should be something that's kind of streamlined. It's easier. People pretty much have a notion from the beginning what these people are like and whether or not, they would fulfill that position. So why would this be so difficult?
I think that's a good question. Further discussion of that isn't really on our agenda, but I'm sure Mr. Brenninger has heard your sentiments and we've heard his sentiments earlier too. So thank you. All right, moving on our agenda to item number 16, which is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 new cardiac monitors.
This will be resolution number 22-8. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the expenditure of $85,405.68 for the purchase of 3 LifePak 15 cardiac monitors made by Physio Control, and funds for this purchase will come from the donations, including $15,104.31, funds from Fund 47 in the amount of $2,943.95, and the remaining amount is to be paid out of Ambulance Service Fund 51 in the amount of $67,357.42. Be it further resolved that no county tax dollar levies will be expended for this project, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this resolution is being offered to you by the Joint Ambulance Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? All right, we have motion. and a second. Okay. We'll give Mark the motion. He hasn't had one yet, so. Mark makes the motion and second by Rudersdorf. And discussion on this. Anyone here to address that?
I can speak to it.
Go ahead, Mr. Lang.
So the cardiac machines are up for replacement. There are monies in these different funds that are going forward with it. There was a delay in doing the purchases to see on whether or not donations were going to be coming forward, and they have come forward. Like it's laid out in the resolution, the expenditures of the $85,000 is going to be covered from donation funds, and then from the Fund 47, the outlay fund, and then also the ambulance service fund, so that it's not coming from general levied tax types of dollars. And that is what I know from it, Mr. Vice.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Van Landine.
Are these 3 replacing 3 that already exist that have outlived their usefulness?
Yes, I believe they're actually past service life. We have had Attorney Wendell also reviewed on the contract with these. It is a very monopolized market, if I'm stating that correctly. So terms in the agreement are less than desirable because it is such a little niched market, though we're kind of left with no other types of alternative.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Chairman Turk.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Director Darren Gudgeon. I guess I'd just like to add a couple of statements to that. First of all, we're going to go ahead and this purchase will be outright, so there'll be no financing of this, as Director Langford or Administrator Langford had mentioned. We did bring this to Attorney Wendell before, and we were looking to finance them. And the terms of that agreement were less than desirable. So we're now in a position to go ahead and purchase them outright without having to enter into any kind of financing agreement with them. And the other thing I'd like to mention, just for the board's sake, is that we did budget, the ambulance service that is, did budget approximately $70,000, and we're actually going to be expending less than what we had budgeted for with this because of the generosity of community members such as the Joan Woodman Orton McCulloch Foundation, Quick Trip, and other entities. So, and to answer the other gentleman's question, our current cardiac monitors are 15 and 16 years old, and the service or the support for them from Phillips Medical ends the end of March, and they'll no longer be supported. So we'll be replacing all 3 of those units.
Very good. Thank you, Darren. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Item number 17, a resolution approving a contract for digital codification of county ordinances.
This will be resolution number 22-9. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to enter into a contract with MuniCode of Tallahassee, Florida for self-publishing software in the following amount of $19,245. And be it further resolved that funding for this project shall be covered through American Rescue Plan Act funds. And be it further resolved that the county administrator shall have authority to enter into a contract with MuniCode of Tallahassee, Florida, with contingent expenses not to exceed $5,755 without further approval from the Finance and Personnel Committee. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Okay, you've heard that resolution. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion from Severson, second from McKee. And any further discussion on this? I know we've talked about this for a while. Yes, question, go ahead.
I was wondering if this codification then enables searching, access in general, or is that a separate step?
Once the project, all the ordinances are codified and they are put into a formal code of ordinances, which we don't have, that will be searchable electronically. And it'll be digitized. We'll get away from the big books and have a digitized code of ordinances.
Mr. Severson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommended that this be brought up and pursued in the Rules Committee, and it's been further on. I think this is a very important feature that we need to have here in Richland County. And I know when we first discussed this in Rules and Resolutions, Clerk Kalish brought up I guess his procedure on how he's got to go through and look through those. And I don't know if he wants to kind of enlighten maybe the group, some supervisors, on what process has to be done in order to find ordinance from 1950.
Sure, all ordinances are in type-bound books or handwritten books without any searchable index for them. So it's a matter of pulling out an ordinance book one at a time and searching through an index that could have something labeled as something and not even close to what the actual content is. So it does require you to pull out a physical book and to literally page through. Each book's about 400 to 500 pages of ordinances, and none of them are linked or anything like that. So it's quite a task. If anyone wants to come see sometime, I'm happy to have you up.
Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Seeb.
Does that mean that this codification and indexing will be accessible on our website?
There are many different uses of the codification. Yes, it can be made available electronically in lots of different ways.
For any member of the public?
It can be.
And would it be compatible then with the city of Richland Center and other municipalities?
Municode is used by various counties, cities, villages, and towns in the country. So there are lots of them. I think Sauk County is the closest one to us that uses it. So you can find the vendor. They're quite well known.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
Just as an example, Vernon County uses it, and I have been on it several times. I cannot think of a time that I've actually looked at a Richland County ordinance because it is so onerous to try and get through it. If I had to, I would, but thus far I've managed to avoid it.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Seeb.
I would think it would be very good if any citizen could look up an ordinance on the internet or on the website.
What a concept, eh?
Well, is that going to be the effects of this?
It could be one of the things we choose to do with the material. Am I correct in that, Mr. Kalish?
That's correct. I mean, it's an electronic set of data, so you can use that how you need to.
Very good.
All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. The motion carries. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Severson.
Item number 18 on our agenda, a resolution approving a collaboration between the Richland County Board of Supervisors and the Richland County Sheriff to assist in efforts to reduce underage alcohol consumption.
This will be resolution number 22-10. Now therefore be it resolved that in furtherance of these important efforts, I, Sheriff of Richland County, Wisconsin, and the Board of Supervisors do hereby agree to collaborate with Crime Stoppers, Partners for Prevention, and other citizen groups to prevent private property owners from illegally allowing youth, other than their children, to drink alcohol. Using research-based practices for party patrols, Sheriff's Department officers will investigate and respond to reports of social host violations. If the reports result in a violation, citations may be issued to youth and property owners. Furthermore, in an effort to change local conditions, all reports of alleged violations of the social host law will be communicated to the District Attorney's Office and shared with the County LE Judicial Committee. We hereby invite the citizens of Richland County to pledge support for continued strategic efforts to reduce youth access to alcohol and consumption in our county. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this is being offered to you by the Law Enforcement and Judiciary Committee.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Manning, second by Mr. Van Landijk. Discussion.
Question.
Yes, Steve. Just a minute. Steve Carroll is up first.
The collaboration, but I'm not familiar with the host law or ordinance or statute or whatever it is. Could we be pointed toward that so we can see it?
Sheriff Porter is getting to a microphone. There's anything you'd like to say about that, Sheriff?
Do you want me to take that, Sheriff?
Oh, Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
The resolution is slightly a misnomer. The social host law, so far as Wisconsin is concerned, is actually an exception to civil liability if you were to serve an underage person alcohol and then that person were in their intoxicated state to harm someone else. Previously, you would not have been liable under civil law. That led to, I believe, a number of deaths. And subsequent to a Supreme Court ruling, the legislature actually changed the law. It's WSStat 125, I can pull it up after, and created specifically a carve out for that exception. So there is no social host law in terms of a statute stating that you can't provide alcohol to underage drinkers. So this would be a private land or homeowner providing alcohol to minors under their care and custody or present on their property. Not, kids sneaking a couple sips of vodka without your knowledge. If you are deliberately and intentionally providing alcohol, and then a child minor goes on and injures someone else because of their intoxication, you would then be potentially civilly liable. And I did want to clarify as well, though the reports of these violations will be going to the district attorney's office, and we are working jointly, myself, Sheriff Porter, and DA Harper. The actual prosecution under the statute that I'm citing, which is specific to the provision of alcohol for underage drinkers, if you have not had a violation within the previous 30 months, is actually a civil forfeiture, and therefore would be prosecuted by the Office of the Corporation Counsel instead of the DA, much like the animal running at large ordinance that we passed last time. Generally speaking, and I can go into more depth on this if anybody's interested, but there has to be a corollary criminal statute before the DA can take any enforcement action on a county ordinance.
All right, thank you.
A question for Mr. Wendell.
Go ahead, Mr. Sieb.
But didn't you say there is no corollary statute at present? Criminal statute.
So should you violate this, the statute that I'm citing more than once within a 30-month period, it escalates from a civil forfeiture to a criminal fine and or potentially imprisonment, and therefore would be properly prosecuted at that point by the DA. That's why we want to get her involved early so she knows who the violators are and we can track when those violations occur and whether it is appropriate for her to then pursue those more severe penalties.
This changes or adds to the authority of the Sheriff's Department then?
I don't believe it changes anything about the sheriff's authority. I believe it's just more of a refocus of prioritization. And it also directed that joint discussion, again, between myself, Sheriff Porter, and DA Harper in order to better provide enforcement on this.
In other words, the sheriff can already do what we're trying to do with this resolution.
Correct. Yes.
May I speak? This is Julie Prouty.
Yes, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm the alcohol work group chair for Partners for Prevention. And first of all, we brought you this resolution. I want to apologize that several of you expressed interest in our coalition, but you didn't have any information. So I did email everybody last week. Mrs. Rissler is there at the meeting tonight, and she has some information to hand out to you in paper copies. So you can see what our coalition is all about, and please ask any questions that you have. But we're based on prevention. And so this resolution is basically a solidifying more relationships between you, the sheriff's department, the county LE committee, and the DA. So it's making it more solid so that we have more accountability, again, working on prevention, because this kind of thing happens a lot in our county, and we'd like there to be more solid connections and relationships between the groups, like Mr. Wendell stated.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Van Landa, did you have a question?
Yes, I want to thank Joe for bringing this to us, Joanne. And my question is, why is there a 30-month lapse between the time this may have happened in the first place and the next time it's going to be taken care of? I mean, if you've got a set of parents, which is rare, that would live in a family that would have children that would do this kind of thing, why not have an intervention before that 30-month period is up? Is there any particular reason for that?
Mr. Wendell?
I am afraid I'm confused by the question. So hypothetically, the sheriff would show up at a private residence where alcohol was being given to minors. They would issue a citation under WISTAT 125.07, and there's a subsection specifically to underage drinkers. That citation would then be enforced by the Office of the Corporation Counsel because it is a civil forfeiture instead of a criminal penalty. 2 weeks down the line, sheriff shows back up, they're doing the same thing. At that point, it is a criminal matter and is referred to the DA. If you go 30 months without further violation, then it resets to the civil forfeiture.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer your question?
I believe so. Yeah, the 30-month lapse kind of threw me, and I thought, well, if something happens now, then you've got to wait for another year and a half, or 2 years.
No, yes, you're not immune for those 30 months. You're actually at a higher liability. You're at risk of criminal charges.
Excellent. Yeah, because alcoholism in this area is a problem, and it needs to be addressed. And I think we as a community and a guiding force in this community, I think it's up to us to make sure that these kinds of things happen. So thank you.
Other questions or discussion?
One question.
Yes, Mr. Steve.
Is this organization who's sponsoring this resolution, are they affiliated with or under the umbrella of Richland County Human Services?
We are, this is under the DCF grant. The Richland School District wrote for the grant in Richland County to combine the schools. Ithaca is also a school in the county, so we are ushered underneath that. But it's based on the grant, and our umbrella organization is Partners for Prevention, and it talks about all upstream prevention practices. And we have many work groups, and again, some of this is in your information that we've given you. So, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, but we're really working. I run the alcohol work group, so it's something that we wrote as a resolution with help. And again, Chief Jones has been in our meetings, and so has Sheriff Porter. They're very supportive of our team.
Are you a 501c organization?
That is a good question. I don't believe so. Betsy Raisler would have that answer.
This is Joanne Krulotz. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We're not a 501c3, but we do fall under the umbrella of the RCCFAC, the Richland County Children and Family Advocacy Council. We also do, you asked about Health and Human Services. We also have personnel from Health and Human Services who serve on the board for Partners for Prevention, because there's 12 segments that you have to fulfill. I'm on it as the media representative. We have to have health people, so we have doctors, we have people from Health and Human Services, we have school personnel. So it is a whole county-wide organization. Does that help you, Don?
Yes, thank you, Joanne. It sounds like it's a very civic-minded and worthwhile organization.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Sheriff Porter, anything you'd like to say about this?
No, I think it was pretty well explained already, and, this isn't necessarily giving me any more authority or changing what I do. It's just kind of, solidifying the process and the direction we want to see this go.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Yes, go ahead. It's, this is just a resolution approving a collaboration. And as Mr. Wendell expressed, they sat down and talked together and formalized that discussion process and how situations will be handled. Am I summarizing that correctly?
We will be sitting
Will be,
down to have
okay.
that talk. This resolution would direct us to make those policies and procedures.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Luck.
Very quickly, I just wanted to say that I think the other part that's important to think about this is that this is making the statement that as a board, this is important to us. We're directing our sheriff's department to have these conversations, to make these connections. So it's really just a statement of support that this is important.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries and the resolution is approved. Thank you. Item number 19, appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees. Mr. Langrick.
Mr. Vice, tonight, several appointments coming to you through committees on committees. First one is for Strategic Planning Committee. Recommendation appointment, looking for confirmation for Mr. Bob Frank, appointed represented as a supervisor. For our Branding Committee, appointment of Jane Kintz as the art representative, replacing Marilyn Hauk. And then an item here for fire wardens, appointments for fire wardens pursuant of Section 2612 and Section 2614 of the Wisconsin State Statutes. This will be appointment of fire wardens for Natural Bridge Grocery, Richland County Land Conservation, and the Port, which are all come down to us through the state. Mr. Vice.
All right, you've heard those recommendations. Mr. Cosgrove making a motion to approve, second by Supervisor Luck. Any discussion on these appointments? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we will make those appointments. Thank you. Item number 20, do we have any reports tonight?
Oral report, as talked about in previous meetings, we're going to have structural change conversations happening through rules and resolutions coming up in February. Certainly, I think it's worth knowing about and involvement as you see fit. If you're unable to make the meetings, please watch the videos, as there will be discussion talking about structural changes on what our committees look like and the proposal potentially to consolidate them into several large standing committees, as well as finance and personnel. We're going to have kind of ramping up into building a long-term projection financial plan as well as capital planning, and already beginning preliminary discussions on what a 2023 budget looks like. So please stay in tune to those types of meetings, and if you have informations that you want to solicit to it, by all means, you're welcome to attend or reach out to your committee members to represent your concerns with it. Thank you, Mr. Vice.
Thank you. Any other reports?
Mr. Chair, may I just add something to Mr.
Yes,
Langrick?
Mr. Murphy-Lopez, go ahead.
So most people are aware that finance and personnel were on Zoom. Not Zoom, we're on WebEx rather. So if you can't come in to the meeting, you can still attend from home or wherever you're at. But we do also have the option for the Rules and Resolutions Committee, and we are considering a lot of things that would potentially change the way the county board operates if they make it out of committee. Several things have made it out of committee, and we anticipate probably more stuff coming to the county board as we get closer to the election. So just want to encourage folks on the county board to come to those meetings, and we'd love to hear from the 5 of us. Would also love to hear from other county board members there. And all the meetings are recorded as well. So if you hear something talked about here, referred to like committee consolidation, you can go back to the January meeting and you can watch the meeting to hear the discussion, to know where we're at in the process. So just want to let everyone know that the information's out there and we'd welcome you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, item number 21, any correspondence?
None to report.
Mr. Chair, I do have
Yes, sir.
correspondence.
Go ahead.
I do. I received this note today from a Richland County resident addressed to me in care of the county board. Dear Richland County board members, thank you for your service to our communities and Richland County. Your time is a valuable gift given, and I appreciate you all. Thank you for ensuring we had a Christmas tree on the courthouse lawn. I see this symbol as a light of hope to our citizens in a dark and hopeless time in our history. I pray God's rich blessings and his wisdom as you serve our county. Best regards, Robin Cosgrove.
Thank you. Any other correspondence anyone has? Otherwise, we would be looking for a motion to adjourn till our next meeting, which I believe is February 21st. Is that correct?
No,
No,
February 15th.
15th. I looked at the calendar wrong, sorry.
And
15.
Mr. Chair, will that be at the normal venue?
At the Phoenix Center here, correct? Yes, that is correct. So looking for a motion to adjourn till February 15th here at the Phoenix Center.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brewer, second by McKee. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And Mr. Chair, that was the shortest county meeting we've had in 8 years.
I don't know if it's quite the shortest, but thank you, everyone.
Good job. Thank you.